Now, in addition to that, Wonder Gadot, who finished second to Mon Ami Girl, who is the #1 rated 3-year-old in North America. She's won the Kentucky Oaks. She's had this impeccable resume winning the Ashland Stakes. She won the Coaching Club American Oaks the previous week to this telecast. She's been the #1 3-year-old. She holds a win over Wonder Gadot, who has since smashed males in Canada in the first 2 legs of the Canadian Triple Crown. Where does she go? A Triple Crown is a Triple Crown, whether you think the Canadian Triple Crown carries less prestige than the American version or the English version, the 2000 Guineas, the Epsom Derby, and the St. Leger. And it would be great to see another Triple Crown winner. You know, the lady is a champ. So that's a scenario that would be great to have 2 Triple Crown winners in North America. But Mark Casse, who trains Flame Away, second in the Jim Dandy, who will likely get a cut back in distance by running in the Allen Jerkins. And we're going to talk a lot about Flame Away, as I have all year long. I think he's a horse that still has options, even if he may be somewhat limited in his scope distance-wise. But he ran well in the Jim Dandy. But he is the stablemate of Wonder Gadot. She is going to run in the Travers, unless otherwise noted, or unless there's a change. And you know, an audible call to go back to the Canadian Triple Crown, which I don't think anyone would be discouraged by. I think her going for the Triple Crown in Canada would be a really great thing. So if she doesn't run there in the Travers, that would be great to see her try for the Triple Crown up north. Having said that, though, her being in the Travers brings a dynamic. How will she fare? And I hate to use against the boys. That has a bit of a sexual connotation, and I think it's somewhat politically incorrect, although I cannot stand political correctness. It's way over the top. I always say running against males, running against colts, and that's what we're dealing with Wonder Gadot. Not running against the boys. She's a woman, and this is, you know what I'm getting at. So you get the picture. So she's going to have an opportunity to run against males, a lot like what we frequently see in Europe. It's not as big a deal. It's a little bit more novel when it happens. So I think she likes the 1.25 miles. Will she like the surface? Can she handle the pace scenarios that are going to be put forth in front of her? And I think that there's a good chance she can probably be competitive. We'll just have to wait and see. But unless otherwise noted, she's, pencil her in for the Travers. Now, as in looking at the Travers field, who do you like? Well, Good Magic is the #1 horse in my rankings right now. Based on the Haskell, he's had an impeccable record. He's 3 for 8 in his career. He's been in the money 7 in all of his starts with the exception of the Preakness. And the Preakness was a strong 4th place. I almost liken it to a 3rd place finish because, between horses 1 through 5, Justify, Bravazzo, Tenfold, Good Magic, and Good Lone Sailor, you're looking at, a spread of less than 2 lengths. Very competitive race, and was overrated in terms of it being a weak performance by Justify. And we'll talk more about that when we get into the retirement podcast and what Justify has meant to racing, even though it came and went so quickly. But again, Good Magic is my #1. Hofburg is my #2. Not because I'm absolutely enthralled with either one of the top 2, but he ran a good race in the Curlin. He didn't bore out in the stretch, which is why, Tenfold drops down a little bit. Vino Rosso is my #3. That surprises a lot of people. Not because I'm overwhelmed with him, not because I'm enamored with him being by Curlin, but because I think he ran encouragingly enough that if he can get his mind on his business, and if he can handle, things a little more smoothly in the Travers, I think he will do well at 10 furlongs. I'm not absolutely picking him to win that race. I'm not sure if he will really explode and sustain a great run. But if he can run like he did in the Belmont, and it's 10 furlongs, and he can close and be tactically in the same relative position at 10 furlongs and be fit enough, because the star horses do this without even us asking all these questions. You ask them, somewhat generically, but it's just something to keep the conversation going when this horse is going to show up and he's going to do some things that you didn't even think he could do or she could do. And with these horses, you have to ask more questions because the proof isn't there. The overwhelming evidence, the DNA is not suggesting, even with the pedigrees, that these horses can really thrive and do it multiple times. So with Vino Rosso, it would appear he's set up to run really strongly at 1.25 miles and really kick in at that distance and come home running and make a couple moves without it affecting his performance because the fitness and the brilliance is there, the way that a Victory Gallop would always just relentlessly close, or a Touch Gold or Empire Maker, just that lovely, ability to turn over their wheels and improve their stride. And so Vino Rosso showed that in the final stage of the Jim Dandy. Can he do it at 1.25 miles? But he's my #3 simply because I think he could. I'm not really sure, but based on what's going on here, I think his performance in finishing 3rd almost getting the second spot from Flameway. It was a little bit better than Tenfold, who, if he really was brilliant, would have bursted by Flameway and really cruised home in the smooth fashion that Good Magic and Hofberg did. So he drops down, even though his pedigree would indicate being by Curlin, he can go 1.25 miles, which goes to my point. How legitimate is pedigree sometimes when you have a horse that, Aidan O'Brien made a great point. Elvis is, Elvis, we all know how great Elvis was, but it's just like, Elvis didn't have any brothers that could sing. So pedigree can be overrated when you look at it that way. I don't know if Elvis's cousins could sing or not, but I just don't think that they got anywhere near as famous as his brother to where it's talked about. I don't think he's got a brother who was a good bar lounge singer. So again, pedigree can be overrated. Elvis didn't have any brothers that can sing, and just because Tenfold is by Curlin does not automatically mean, based on what I saw in the Jim Dandy, that he's a sure bet to get the 10 furlongs, even though everyone seems to be more on a diatribe on Vino Rosso. And we're going to talk about that at length, if I haven't talked about it too much tonight. So Bravazzo is my number 5. He's number 5 because he ran reasonably well. He was second best to Good Magic. He was never going to beat him. I'm not so, Jerry Bailey said that he was about as thin as an envelope, and that he's still looking like he's had a lot of wear and tear, that the wear and tear of the Triple Crown's taken something out of him. And it may come to crash and burn in the Travers somewhere down the line, but I got to give him credit for running a good 5th here. Lone Sailor finished 3rd, a distant 3rd. He's in the 6th spot, but it's tepid. I think he's still a horse. I'm not so sure the Travers is going to be where he lands. I don't think 1.25 miles is completely out of his scope, but I'm just not absolutely sure. But he maintained 6. He ran a good race. Gronkowski's in the 7th spot. I'm not sure if that's an absolute surefire thing. Again, we just don't know what his schedule is like, and the inactivity. Just the Belmont is giving me the reason or the justification, to coin a phrase, to be there. I'm just not so sure just yet, where he's going to land. We don't know if it's a one-hit wonder, if it's a dud, or if he's going to consolidate this, but he's in good hands with Chad Brown. He's the number 7. Flame Away is my number 8, but just tepidly, just based on the Jim Dandy. That could change. He's certainly going to be one of the better speed horses, just like Promises Fulfilled. Dale Romans has already made the move to cut him back. He was very impressive in the Amsterdam, which is the local prep at Saratoga, for what used to be the King's Bishop. It's now called the Alan Jerkins, after the great Hall of Fame trainer, who's better known as the Giant Killer, because he beat Secretariat twice with 2 different horses. Flame Away is a horse that has a lot of options. I like him because, even if you don't think he can go 1 1/8 miles, or that he's hard-pressed to do that, a little bit like Practical Joke for Chad Brown, he's still very handy. He's going to get you checks. So he's a horse that on the turf might be the best at 1 1/8 miles. Might even be able to go 1.25 miles against turf horses, because he's won on synthetic, dirt, and turf. Number 2, even if that's not completely the case, because you can never underestimate, I think there's great horses on the turf. It's not a second alternative. We all know it's the primary surface in Europe. But the point is that he's a horse that's very handy. Mark Casse can spot him in an 8 furlong, 8.5 furlong race, either on the dirt or the turf, can maybe stretch him to 9 in certain spots. I do think he does have some stamina. He might not be a 1.25 miles horse, but again, he could be developed. He's had a pretty demanding, somewhat demanding campaign. Took time off after the Derby, didn't run so well in the Ohio Derby, came back. Now, be curious to see what his energy level is after this, and it might be tough to come back in a sprint against not so much Promises Fulfilled, but just coming back to run 7 furlongs. Sprinting is not easy either, but he's a horse that could be a Breeders' Cup Sprint dirt horse, maybe the Breeders' Cup. He could be in the sprint either on the dirt or the turf, or he could be in the mile races if he doesn't fit into the classic picture. And so I think there's a lot, the skies are bright for him. I've been saying this all year long since the Triple Crown Trail started. So he's my number 8, not maybe the strongest number 8, but he's, as a matter of fact, he's a very interesting horse. In Still Regard is now in the barn of Chad Brown, which is very interesting. It's a development that I kind of overlooked. He's in the barn of Chad Brown, just like Bolt d'Oro is now in the barn of Steve Asmussen. So whether these horses are going to be players or horses, parts on the chess table that these 2 trainers are going to use this year, certainly if they stay in training in 2019, these are going to be horses that you're going to be looking at to represent and carry the Chad Brown banner, as well as the Asmussen-Blasi banner, because I call it Asmussen-Blasi because Scott Blasi's played such a great role, an integral role in Steve Asmussen's success. So I don't even call it Steve Asmussen stable. It's Asmussen-Blasi, and it'll be interesting to see where they put Bolt d'Oro and how he's going to fit in, whether it be immediate or in the future, because that's going to be the question on both these horses, whether in the immediate, in the acute phase, or later on in the game, they'll come to hand. But it gives them another option and another horse they can slot into some stake races without all the pressure being on, in Chad Brown's case, on Good Magic and Gronkowski, and in the case of Asmussen, on Tenfold and Reride, who also did not run well in the Jim Dandy, but he's another one of his charges, along with Combatant. So that just adds another horse to the Asmussen arsenal, and it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. Now, from a musical chair standpoint, the Ortiz boys are going to probably be interchanging between Hofburg and Good Magic. Jose Ortiz is Good Magic's rider. Will probably stay there. He has ridden Hofburg before, so it'll be interesting. He does have a choice to make. Something tells me he's going to stay on the Haskell winner and Kentucky Derby runner-up and current, and the juvenile champion from 2017. Meantime, like I said, this is a very, very, at this point, the division is wide open. I believe that, Good Magic has catapulted himself somewhat to the front for right now, but that's maybe the mixed bag that we might be getting, a group that will trade blows if there isn't one that will dominate. So we'll find out more about that as we continue to carry on with our reports, and we'll let you know and keep you posted on the latest on the Racing Report for 2018.